And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Bill Maher is done with the woke, calling out all of the woke ideologies as if it's his full-time job. His latest target, none other than Whoopi Goldberg. Let's face it, she's been providing plenty of material thanks to a string of awkward and controversial statements since 2022. But Maher didn't just disagree with her. He dissected her argument with surgical precision, delivering a verbal takedown so sharp it was like watching a comedy roast meet a heavyweight match. So, what exactly did Whoopi say to land herself in Maher's spotlight this time? And how did his rebuttal shake up the woke crowd? Stick around, we're diving into the details, and trust me, this ride is anything but smooth sailing.
We have got to get past this endless, unforgiving, zero-tolerance mindset bent on punishing and disappearing anyone caught saying the wrong thing. The right response to speech you don't like is more speech.
Whoopi Goldberg is back at it again, stirring up controversy and facing some uncomfortable truths. And let's just say, it's not exactly working in her favor. If you caught our last video, you'll remember how Bill Maher took apart Sunny Hostin for twisting his words. Well, it looks like the View crew isn't about to let that go without a fight. This time, Whoopi has taken center stage, seemingly determined to fire back and settle the score. Rumor has it that after Sunny struggled to handle Maher's criticism, she decided to bring in reinforcements, none other than Whoopi herself. And when Whoopi stepped in, she didn't hold back, diving in headfirst like she was gearing up for a reality TV showdown no one asked for.
And black people can't afford to indulge rich white people's need to endlessly flagellate themselves. They just want prices to go down and good jobs and the police when you call them.
Well, if he's right, then why didn't people vote for the former prosecutor who actually had policy plans to help the working class?
Typical Whoopi Goldberg, flipping through the usual woke strategies like they're straight out of a playbook. Whenever the conversation starts falling apart, her favorite tactic is to build a distraction and go on the offensive. Bill Maher was making a clear and simple point. Black Americans are looking for better jobs, a stronger economy, and effective law enforcement. Pretty straightforward, right? But Whoopi jumped in with a completely off-topic rant about supporting a former prosecutor with ideas for the working class. Does it connect? Not in the slightest. Does it make sense? Not really. It's like she's tossing ideas at the wall, hoping something will stick. Spoiler, it doesn't. And you better believe Maher wasn't going to let that slide.
Border Patrol, and let's tear down statues of Lincoln, and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
Bill Maher didn't hold back, tearing apart Whoopi's arguments and calling them out for what they were. Pure nonsense. But let's be real, that's pretty much business as usual on The View. The show has become the political talk show equivalent of a car crash. You know it's a mess, but you just can't look away. It's always been known for stirring up controversy, and let's be honest, some seriously questionable takes. But Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin have cranked the chaos up to a whole new level with their over-the-top commentary. Remember when Charlemagne Tha God showed up as a guest? You could practically see him wondering if he'd stumbled into an alternate reality.
This week,
all of the criticism is valid because, Democrats stand on this moral high ground all the time, and, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now. But
here's the backstory. President Joe Biden, the self-proclaimed defender of the no one is above the law mantra, just pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, after, surprise, surprise, he was found guilty of corruption and related offenses. Family values at their finest. Right? Not surprisingly, this move has sparked a wave of criticism. How exactly do you reconcile the whole no one is above the law stance when your own son gets a get out of jail free card? It's like saying justice is blind, unless your last name is Biden. Hunter's guilt was as obvious as a toddler with cookie crumbs all over their face, yet accountability seemed to conveniently slip off the family agenda. That's exactly the point Charlemagne Tha God was making. If the woke crowd insists since no one is above the law, then maybe they should stick to their own standards. Seems straightforward enough, doesn't it? Well, Whoopi Goldberg apparently didn't think so.
I'm gonna stop you for a second.
Uh-oh.
Only because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed his
You really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all of a
No,
sudden?
I'm going to tell you what I think.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he changed his mind because he got sick of watching everybody else get over.
And here we go again. Another cringeworthy moment courtesy of Whoopi Goldberg. This time, she's out here insisting that President Biden never lied when he claimed no one is above the law. Really, Whoopi? Because there's an overwhelming amount of proof, videos, audio recordings, and maybe even some ancient hieroglyphics, showing he said precisely that.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law.
Seeing Whoopi confidently push such an obvious falsehood is like watching someone argue that water isn't wet while standing in the rain. Her mental acrobatics are so wild, they might just qualify her for the Olympics, though odds are she'd stumble over her own contradictions halfway through. Charlemagne's face said it all, pure disbelief, as Whoopi doubled down on her claims. But she didn't stop there. She actually floated the idea that maybe Biden simply changed his mind because he was fed up with people taking advantage of him. Charlemagne was so caught off guard, he didn't even know how to respond.
So I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
But that's their fault. They're the ones that
you're
go out.
mis-
They're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground.
Listen,
they don't have to do that.
I'm a Democrat.
The issue with the woke crowd is that they're quick to call out bad behavior, just as long as it's not coming from one of their own. When it's someone in their inner circle, the outrage suddenly fades into weak excuses or a sudden bout of selective amnesia. Naturally, Whoopi and her co-hosts managed to skate by unchecked with Charlemagne in the hot seat. But once Bill Maher caught wind of the situation, he essentially stepped in with a watch this attitude and unleashed one of the most brutal takedowns we've seen in a while.
You love to speak truth to power, and we always should, but you have completely lost the ability to speak truth to...
Maher couldn't have made his point any clearer. The woke mob likes to position themselves as the ultimate arbiters of truth and morality, but this time, their double standards were laid bare for all to see. Hunter Biden was guilty, no question about it, but because his father is in the White House, he gets a free pass with no consequences. If this were anyone else, the mob would be demanding blood.
The View hosts have got themselves into hot water again after they did the very thing they purport to be against: undermining women's success. Joy Behar stunned viewers when she said Donald Trump's press secretary, 27-year-old Caroline Leavitt, only secured her position because of her good looks.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous administration.
The comment was bizarre, especially coming from Joy Behar, who is as woke as they come and positions herself as a champion of feminism. This online commentator said, disgusting Joy Behar of The View accuses Caroline Leavitt of being hired only because Donald Trump thought she was a 10.
The latest drama surrounding The View is a brutal reminder of the dangers of underestimating guests, especially when they're as unapologetically bold as Caroline Leavitt. This young conservative political strategist has been making waves, and the show's hosts didn't seem ready for the heat she brought. It all started when Joy Behar, with her signature smugness, tried to dismiss Leavitt as unqualified, implying she only made it this far because of her looks. It didn't take long for viewers to realize The View had crossed a line again. But Caroline wasn't about to take the jab lying down. Instead of letting it slide, she clapped back with a response that not only shut Behar down, but also exposed the hypocrisy behind The View's so-called feminist stance.
Talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to one of the worst mass in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political that has led to two heinous attempts on President Trump's life that by the grace of God, he was able to escape and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, have got this country into is not political. It's talking about the reality of the foreign conflicts that the Washington, D.C. establishment have sold out young Americans to for decades.
Instead of caving to the usual elitist snark, Leavitt did something many before her failed to do. She pushed back, and she did it with a mix of sharp intelligence, unshakable poise, and, most crucially, undeniable facts. The moment Maher made her dismissive jab, Leavitt made it clear her success had nothing to do with her looks. It was all about years of hard work, in-depth political expertise, and a mastery of communication, the very qualities that made her a real threat to the View's panel of so-called intellectuals. Leavitt didn't hesitate to call out the absurdity of reducing a woman's accomplishments to her appearance, especially coming from a show that constantly preaches female empowerment. The hypocrisy was glaring. The View claims to uplift women, but the moment one doesn't fit their left-wing agenda, they tear her down in the same way they pretend to oppose. And trust me, the irony wasn't lost on anyone watching.
No, please. His opponents are saying to this very day the same rhetoric that led to those two attempts. The second attempted on President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie. And yes, you will take political like we have seen in two instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was a... That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day. And I'm so sick and tired of the media pointing the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he is sowing division in this country. He is not. The media is for pushing hoaxes like the one that you all pushed today, and the Democrat Party is for pushing lies about him. But the good news is Americans don't buy it. And that's why today in 2024, President Trump is more popular than he has been since 2016 because people don't trust the media.
Let's cut to the chase. This wasn't just about Joy Bahar's petty remark. It's part of a much larger pattern we see time and time again. Whenever a young, articulate conservative woman starts making waves, the media rushes to undermine her. We've seen it with Kayleigh McEnany, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and Elise Stefanik. The second a woman doesn't fit into the left's neat little box, the narrative changes. She's suddenly not accomplished, not serious, just a token, just eye candy for the men around her. And that's exactly what The View tried to do here. Throw a lazy, sexist jab, expecting no one to push back. But this time, it backfired in a big way. Leavitt didn't just call out the double standard, she made sure Maher and the panel knew her success was built on hard work and merit, not privilege or connections. Unlike The View hosts, who've built careers by talking over people and pandering to an already agreed-upon audience, Leavitt earned her spot in the political world. She didn't stop there. She reminded them of something they missed entirely. While they're sitting around gossiping and throwing cheap shots, she's out there shaping political conversations and actually making an impact. Leavitt isn't just another talking head on daytime TV. She's contributing to the larger political discourse. And it didn't take long for that moment to explode online. People from all sides of the political spectrum flooded social media, calling out The View for its glaring hypocrisy. Clips of Leavitt shutting down Bahar's condescending remarks spread like wildfire, with viewers across the board agreeing that not only was Bahar's attack uncalled for, but it was also self-defeating. Even those who didn't align with Leavitt politically had to admit she'd exposed a major flaw in The View's so-called mission to empower women. This moment was a sharp reminder that when it comes to political discourse, The View isn't about lifting women up. It's about silencing the ones they don't like.
Because she said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here. Oh, yeah. Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. Yeah. Because women were not invited to that table. Mm-hmm. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges.
The View loves to talk about empowering strong, independent women, but only if they stay within the show's narrow, left-wing agenda. The second a woman challenges their views, she's reduced to just a pretty face, who doesn't deserve a seat at the table. If that wasn't bad enough for The View, their attempt to take down Levitt backfired in the most spectacular way. Behar's petty jab wasn't just cruel, it revealed a deep insecurity among the panel. Rather than engage with Levitt on her political stance, they defaulted to shallow personal attacks, showing they had no real counterpoint to her arguments. Instead of addressing her ideas, they fixated on her appearance, making themselves look weak and petty. It was a textbook case of projection. Rather than acknowledging that a young conservative woman had earned her success through merit, The View tried to spin the narrative to fit their own ideological box, but this time, no one was falling for it.
Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian, this is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a person's world. So please stop using that phrase and talking about, because you don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, you know, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity to bust down that door.
Behind closed doors, sources at ABC are reportedly saying the backlash was worse than they anticipated. Executives, already fed up with the show's constant stream of controversy, are now questioning whether Joy Behar, a longtime fixture on The View, is doing more harm than good. Sure, The View thrives on stirring up drama, but there's a fine line between being provocative and crossing into problematic territory. And this time, the show definitely crossed that line in a way the network can't just ignore. What really turned this into a disaster, though, was how Levitt responded. She didn't play the victim or whine. She seized the moment to show exactly who she is. She stood her ground, spoke confidently, and proved why she belongs in the political conversation. This wasn't just a win for Levitt. It was a wake-up call for The View and anyone who underestimates conservative women in politics. The tired narrative they've peddled for years, that these women are unqualified, shallow, or just there to look good, was shattered in a single, unforgettable moment. The View might have thought they were putting Levitt in her place, but instead, they just amplified her voice louder than ever.